Hello, welcome back to my series in Factorio, in which I'm attempting to build a mega factory. My name is Azrael. Come along with me as we continue our adventure. First thing we're going to do over here is figure out how to get the oil flowing again. And the first thing I do is cut off all of the power to the cracking plants, because essentially right now what those are doing is just cracking heavy oil into light oil and then light oil into petroleum gas. And I've got plenty of petroleum gas right now, so much that the refineries are not making anything else. So we got to go ahead and shut off power to that so that they have time to recover. And then the next thing we're doing, we're going back down here to the copper mine. I'm going to set up some more serious defenses along here. Turns out I don't quite have enough wall segments in my inventory, but I get it about 3/4 of the way covered up. That should be alright for now. I'm just going to go ahead and put up some turrets as well to protect those walls, because walls are no good if you don't have anything to defend them with. Eventually the biters would just break through and you've wasted some walls. And so put those up. Now that I feel that it's sufficiently secure, at least for now, I'm going to go ahead and put in some more mining drills. I'm going to try to saturate this little brain-shaped cluster as much as I can. I only have about 30 mining drills there only, as if that's like a small number or something. And it's covered a little over half of the deposit here, so that should help things move along pretty quickly. I'm just putting down all the conveyor belts to get the ore over here to my enormous loading facility. And I keep running out of red belts in my inventory, so I have to cover the last mile with the yellow belt, then put a red one back in there because I got one when I put down the splitter. And now it's just a matter of powering up the place. You can see all those drills going. That is absolutely wonderful to watch. It's almost hypnotic watching those things go back and forth. So there we go. I'm going to upgrade everything over here to red splitters, just to help the ore get into the train that much faster. I'm watching to see how quickly it fills up. It should be doing alright. We're going to head back into the main factory now. Cut our way through all these trees. I'm going to stop over here at my stone brick facility and pick up a bunch of those and craft up some more walls, because I will be going back to close that wall in. But right now, it's time to go back up here and check to see how this is progressing. It's kind of trickling along, but as you can see, only 3 of my refineries are firing at once, or at any given time. So we're still not at maximum capacity. I'm just checking that train, because it does seem like it's sitting in the station for a lot longer than it should be, but maybe it's just because I'm not seeing it as it moves over to the unloading facility. It really doesn't take very long to unload at all, thanks to all the stack inserters. I'm going to get rid of some of the copper ore in my inventory in the meantime. I'm just going to go over here and upgrade everything over here to red level miscellany. Get those in place. You can see that the train wasn't there for very long at all. It was there for maybe 5 seconds as the whole thing unloaded. In the meantime, the output from that smelter is it fluctuates between barely anything and a whole load of it. So it's still not quite where it could be, but it is supplying enough copper to the factory to keep everything running, at least on some level. So now it's time to start thinking about the next couple of things I want to do, and that is first of all, I'm looking at getting some processing units in place so that I can finally craft myself up some better armor, because as the biters are getting stronger, I need to match that. Pretty soon they're just going to be able to wipe me away without a second thought. I'm going to craft up a bunch of assembler machines in my inventory. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to increase output of my electronic circuits. because processing units eat up a ton of these things. They need 15, I believe, was the magic number, per processing unit. And even though the processing units themselves take a long time to craft, that's still a major load on my electronic circuit output. So I'm going to have to match that up. Eventually, all of my circuit production is going to be moved to a better facility, probably off to the west, a little bit above the new smelting areas, so that I have room to expand it up to MegaFactory status. Because I still feel like we're a long ways off before we can actually call this factory a MegaFactory, even though there's really no actual metric in place for what constitutes a MegaFactory. It's just basically all I know is that it's bigger than what I have now. So we're gonna have to keep working on this slowly but steadily. I mean, we're only 13 episodes into this series, and hopefully we can achieve a good a good level, what we can call a mega factory, by perhaps episode 30. 30. That seems like a good estimate there. I don't know. We'll see as time goes on. That's just sort of something I'm keeping in the back of my mind. So for now, it's just a matter of getting it all worked out. And now I'm just trying to figure out where I actually want to put in the processing unit facility. I know I want it to be somewhere around here because this is where I'm producing the sulfuric acid, which they need, in addition to the electronic and advanced circuits. So probably somewhere along here. Originally, I wanted to reserve this space for more advanced circuit production, but if I'm just going to be moving everything westward anyway, it's not going to be a big deal. Before I can make that move, however, I do need all three versions of the circuits being produced. So for right now, I'm just going to put it right here. I've got plenty of room for it, so why not? I'm going to set up my input belts, one for red, one for green, and my output, obviously, for blue. But then I run out of belts entirely, so I'm just going to pick up a whole bunch of red belts. I'm going to replace all of these with that because I might as well. There's really no point in using the yellow belts anymore unless it's something that I know is going to be low in throughput. But I know that this is not going to be low in throughput. This is going to require as much throughput as we can possibly put in there. So might as well do red instead of yellow. Makes sense to me, right? And okay, I've got to get rid of these fluid pipes because they're right in my way. And they're just going up to handle the sulfuric acid anyway. I kind of regret not handling the sulfuric acid in my existing fluid processing plant. But on the other hand, it kind of also makes sense moving it to where it's actually needed. So, it's kind of a give and take on that. Originally, I did also want to put all of the other fluids on the main bus, but I'm just not sure if that's going to be necessary because, for the most part, they're just being used down there in the fluid processing area anyway. So there's really no need to move it around. And in the meantime, we've got both the green and red circuits filling in over there. They're not actually being used, so they are backfilling. So I need more iron plates to craft up some inserters. Pick those all up. I fill up my inventory with everything. And then, like, it's like I have amnesia or something. I start crafting stuff up when I don't have any room in my inventory. So all those or the long arm inserters rather, got dumped out onto the ground. So in order to temporarily solve that, I'm putting down yet another junk box. Hopefully that won't be permanent, although it stays there by the end of this episode. I'll probably go back and pick it up again later because obviously this amount of processing units might not be sufficient for my needs going into the future. But maybe by the time that it does prove itself insufficient, I'll have moved the entire facility anyway, so it won't even matter. In the meantime here, I'm just trying to connect up the actual sulfuric acid input, and I decided I'm just going to go right under the blue science production area and connect it back up there. And it looks like everything's being fed up. I just need to supply the power. And there it goes. That should work. And then I decided to take those out and just use substations because for some reason that just felt a little more efficient. Probably not really, but that it just seemed like a good idea at the time. Now I'm looking at the requirements for the actual power armor. I need a couple of those. I craft one up in my inventory. There, that goes. And then I actually forget to equip it. I don't know what I was thinking there. But anyway, I'll remember it eventually. Probably when the biters start attacking me. Okay. In the meantime, it's time to take care of a few other fluid necessities. The first one being the production of lubricant, because I'm going to need those for the electric engines and the express belts in the future, and both of those are probably going to be produced right here in this neighborhood. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that production set up right over here. I've got the chemical plant set up, and I'm just going to get some pipes so that I can move everything around and set up some storage tanks up here a little bit farther to the north of my petroleum gas tanks. Ideally, I won't be needing quite as much of it, but of course it's expandable as time goes on. So I'm just going to go ahead and plunk it down right there. And there's the output. I'll connect it up. Now it just needs power. Now I don't want it to be on the same power line as these other chemical plants that I've already taken offline because I don't need them right now. In the future, though, it might be a better idea to have all of this controlled by a series of combinators on a circuit network. Now, I'm going to go ahead and admit something right here. Now, in as long as I've been playing Factorio, I have never once even crafted a combinator, let alone programmed one. It's a bit of an embarrassing thing to admit, but honestly, combinators are very complicated, and I'm just always nervous about getting into that sort of thing. But I know from what other people have told me that they are actually very, very powerful, especially when it comes to handling all of your fluids. Making sure that you're never spending too much on cracking or converting to solid fuel or whatever. So it is something I'll probably have to end up doing. I think it's almost a necessity when it comes to mega factories because I can't afford to keep running around constantly juggling all of these spinning plates, as it were. As you saw me doing back there previously, I was also chaining over my ammunition assemblers to produce uh, armor-piercing shotgun shells because it's about time that I do those. And I'm setting it up right now so that once those fill up, I'll probably just set one back to doing armor-piercing rounds and keep the other one on armor-piercing shells, so that I always have about an equal amount of both. Now here you can see I'm setting up one of the final things that I need to do, and that is converting some of this petroleum gas into solid fuel, and once again get it on its own line of power. And there that goes. That should really start uh, diminishing my excess of petroleum gas so that all the other things can actually start producing. As you saw down there, the oil refineries were all finally firing once again, which means everything is being produced, not just a little bit and then stop, waiting for the petroleum gas to be used up on plastic production or the sulfuric acid, because it wasn't using those very much. Maybe a little bit more now that I've got the processing units going, but it's also a good idea to get some solid fuel being crafted anyway, because eventually I can have my trains running on solid fuel, and maybe even the rocket fuel once we get there. Now that trains can actually do that in the 0.13 update, so that's a good thing to have on hand. So that I'm not quite as dependent on coal, especially as you saw in the previous episode where I was having uh, coal deficiency issues left and right. And the one of the last things that I'm doing over here, I know I said the last thing was the last thing, but now this truly is the last thing, I promise. I'm also setting up some chemical plants to produce flamethrower ammunition. Now that the 0.13 update has made the flamethrower a viable and, in many people's opinions, overpowered weapon, I might as well be using it. It's something I've never relied on a whole lot before because it was such a laughably underpowered weapon, and now it's on the verge of almost being game breaking, according to what a lot of people are saying. But I figure it's time for me to test that out on my own. I pick up all those armor piercing shells so that I now have those in my inventory, and pick up a few of the already crafted uh, uh, ammunition modules for the flamethrower. So now I have the most powerful ammunition for all three of my main weapons. I'm just checking out some of the requirements for the other forms of ammunition, such as the cannon shells. Again, it's something I've never really relied on a whole bunch. But in the meantime, I'm going to go say hello to some of these biters that have moved into my territory, and it'll give me a good chance to test out some of this new ammunition that I've crafted up. I know from previous experience that the armor-piercing shells in the combat shotgun is an exceptionally powerful weapon. But up here I'm going to be trying out the flamethrower. Yeah, those worms almost killed me because I'm not wearing my most powerful armor yet. But it also made short work of them in about the same amount of time. The only drawback that I can see to the flamethrower is that it does take time for the flame to travel from your weapon to the intended target, and during that time you are vulnerable to attack. But once that thing lays down, oh man, it just lays down a path of devastation. And of course, the active weapon in my hotbar keeps cycling around without my knowledge. So you'll see me using the shotgun, the submachine gun, and the flamethrower almost interchangeably at these points. And combining that with the traditional turret creep is proving to be very effective, even against some of these medium-sized worms that would normally be giving me pause before advancing. Now are just sort of a momentary trifle to deal with. And so I'm just going to go ahead and test that out a bit. See, right there you can see that one of those spiders got past my flamethrower and came in to actually attack me. And then as I went up against those worms, they were able to hit me several times before I was able to kill them with the flames. But once those flames hit, they went down and just in a pile of ash. So it's definitely a very viable weapon now. It's certainly an upgrade over the 0.12 and previous versions. It does kind of lack a range on it. It has about the same range as the regular turret. There, I'm just laying waste and charring the corpse of that medium worm. And just going to go ahead and finish off these last couple of worms. I'm just going to run in with the shotgun and take care of those. And that should be it for now. I did notice that there was an attack in my copper mine a while back, so I'm going to have to run back there. I'm going to go ahead and craft up some more turrets, because I need to cover that place in a lot more coverage, kind of like what you see here, only with the addition of a wall. And I see that my processing units have actually filled up the line, so I'm going to have those empty into a box for now. Steel chest so that I can get a nice good buffer. And the solid fuel has almost half filled the steel chest that I put them in, so that's crafting up really fast, and eventually it's going to get to the point where they can't craft anymore because it's full. So I'll have to deal with that when the time comes. In the meantime, I'm shooting my way through these thick trees back down here, and you can see that pile of corpses over there on the train tracks that was indicative of that most previous attack. And yeah, they definitely are coming out in droves. So I'm going to have to finish building up the wall around this to keep it safe. And as I'm crafting up and placing the gates, there's more attacks. And there's a bunch of biters attacking the walls that I literally just put down. I mean, they hadn't even been there for 60 seconds yet. So there's obviously more biter nests that need to be dealt with here in the south and possibly southwest of this area. But I am running out of time in today's episode, so I'm just going to go ahead and put down a big long turret line right behind the defensive wall, and filling all those up with as much ammunition as I can. I realize I don't actually have enough to put in all of them to a degree that I find suitable. I would like to have at least 25. So I'm filling those up. I actually have to steal some from my own personal supply and craft up a few in my inventory as we go, because I don't want to run all the way back to the factory to stock up and then run all the way back here. So I'm just going to do the next best thing and stick a bunch of ammunition in as many turrets as I can. I figure the best thing to do would be to go every other turret if I needed to, because that way at least they're all within range of each other. They can cover. In the meantime, that's going to be as many as I can put down. I'm just going to throw a few lights down here in this mining facility so that I can see what I'm doing while I'm here. And that's going to be the end of the episode. I want to thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy it. My name is Azrael. Never stop building.